look at the impact, the monetary aspect of artificial intelligence in terms of, for investors, what does that mean? We have about a $16 trillion services industry across the globe annually, $16 trillion. $2.6 trillion here in Americas for primarily white-collar jobs, some blue-collar jobs, $2.6 trillion annual spend in services. All of it is going to be impacted by that, every bit of it. So at the moment, it's probably at 3 or 4 or 5%. But could you just imagine that in our lifetimes, we'll have more robots? You all know this better than Moneta does. We'll have more robots. The number of people, the analysts, the jobs that are being created and being lost as a result of efficiency gain. So it's absolutely huge. Specifically within, our Moneta thesis, we look at the AI space into primarily 4 buckets: functions, features, applications, platforms, and infrastructure. And our thesis is to primarily look for the middle 2, which are applications and platforms. And we have invested, most of our investments, I would say, over 70% fall in one of those 2 buckets, primarily application.
Welcome to Austinpreneur, our show about the stories that made Austin, Texas, a global hub for startups. The show is produced by Capital Factory and hosted by me, Nick Spiller. As a reminder, by joining Capital Factory, you can plug into the ecosystem where the stories on this show were set. Learn more about us at capitalfactory.com. Excited to be here, my favorite part of the day, and we have a very special guest. I'm going to kind of kick it off with a formal intro before we jump in. If y'all aren't listening or following the podcast, please do. It's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, a bunch of other platforms where you can listen. But y'all are here live. That means you're part of the inner circle, part of the community, and excited to record probably our 100th and something episode of the podcast. But I'm going to go ahead, read Aasim's intro, and then we're going to dive in. Y'all have a chance to ask some questions at the end, and we will be out of here in about an hour. So want to welcome you back to the Austinpreneur podcast. I'm your host, Nick Spiller. We're recording live here from Capital Factory. On the show, we're known for hosting unicorn founders, Midas List VCs, as well as 4-star generals and world leaders. Tonight, we have a very special guest we're going to add to our roster, someone who's invested hundreds of millions of dollars into companies with a thesis largely revolving around Texas, one of our favorite topics on the show. He's lived in Austin for quite some time. He graduated from the University of Texas, Hookham, and led global companies in the energy, education, consulting space. We're going to dive into thinking like a top venture capitalist. We're going to expose insights you can use to grow your company today. But before we start, please help me give a warm welcome to Aasim Hasan, the managing partner at Moneta Ventures, to the Austinpreneur podcast. Welcome, Aasim. Welcome. Good to see you. Hook 'em horns. Make yourself at home. Comfortable. It's good to see you. You're so famous now. I got to get you in the podcast just to.
Now I'm famous.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully we can help it out. But Moneta just closed your 3rd fund. Quarter of $1 billion.
Plus,
yes. $250 million plus. It's a lot of money. I met you when I think just closed Fund 1. And you were coming on to lead Moneta here in Texas. And I'm curious, how has Moneta evolved since Fund 1 through Fund 2 and now into Fund 3?
Yeah. No, first and foremost, Nick, thank you very much. And thanks, Capital Factory. And thanks to all of you for attending. I know it's late on a Thursday evening, so hopefully we'll wrap up quick enough. I think the best way to answer that is a little bit of a backdrop on the Moneta story, and then I'll mention, sort of the Moneta story and our journey. So I think the Moneta story started literally in 1994. I'm actually an immigrant. I'm originally from Pakistan, came to the US for my undergrad, landed here in August 27th, 1990, before many of you were born, and studied electrical and computer engineering, co-opted IBM while I was here, graduated, and started my career at PricewaterhouseCoopers, now IBM Global Services. At Pricewaterhouse, I met a group of individuals that became my lifelong friends. So fast forward from then, this is February of '94 to today, we have the partners of Moneta Ventures primarily met at Pricewaterhouse. We did some great program and project work there, and then left and started, two companies, scaled them, sold them to two publicly traded companies. And our last exit was in 2013, which was to KPIT. That came with a 5-year non-compete. So we couldn't be in the technology business. The way our attorneys explained it, we couldn't sell computers in Africa, and decided to launch a fund as first-time VCs. As Nick mentioned, we just closed our third fund. Our first fund was a $25 million fund. Got fairly lucky, made some really good investments. So blessed to have some amazing founders, and have transitioned into a little bit of a bigger fund. The journey has been, in terms of our thesis, has been the same. We invest in what we know. We know technology, we know large companies, we know how to build companies, scale companies, be involved in mergers and acquisitions. So today, our thesis, our journey with Moneta Ventures is a continuation of our entrepreneurial journey. The 6 partners of Moneta Ventures, in accumulation, have almost 180 years of entrepreneurial large company experience. We try to bring that to bear. The only difference is we can now write much bigger checks. In our first one, we could write $1 million to $3 million checks. Today, we can write, $25, $30 million checks. But the fundamentals are still the same. We follow amazing founders with great ideas, help them the best we can, give them the resources, and then very importantly, move out of the way so they could do what they do best. So that's it.
Excellent. I love it. Let me dive into a little bit. Amazing founders. Like, what does that look like to you? If I meet you and want to come across as amazing, what behavioral characteristics should I portray?
So it's actually very interesting. Our investment thesis or investment process has evolved from Fund 1 to where we are today. So we have tried to productize that. We have 11 people on our investment committee. Every member of our team, whether you're an analyst or a managing partner, has an equal vote once you've been with us for 6 months or longer. And it's all operated. We have an app. It's on Airtable. The back engine is Airtable. Everyone gets to vote. And we have 8 criteria, 7, sort of written criterias, and then our 8th criteria is a gut. That's weighted 30%. One of those 7 criterias is the team, right? Or the founders. And I would say that if you look at our portfolio, many of which are our Capital Factory company, they come in all shapes and sizes, right? People that are repeat entrepreneurs that have worked for big companies. They have, scaled big companies, exited, or dropouts from UT, one of our stories. Hopefully we get to talk about that, that have killed it and have done amazing things. But I would say the underlying theme is they have amazing work ethic. They are inquisitive. They have what it takes to maneuver through very, very difficult. It's just difficult to build and scale a business. So freaking difficult to do that. And you don't have to be 50 years old. You could be 20 and be able to do that. So if you work hard, you're loyal, you are honest, you're intelligent, you can surround yourself with people that know more than you, and resourceful, I think you have a very good chance. As I mentioned, I'm originally from Pakistan, which is a developing part of the world. And in that developing part of the world, for those of us that are immigrants, it's very difficult to build a business ethically. You almost always have to break rules. You have to lie and cheat, not all the time, but most of the time. We're so blessed to be in this amazing country where you can do things honestly, follow the system, have some resources, and with a little bit of luck, you can build something iconic. So I would say that those are the sort of common themes we look for.
We touched on the university. You and I really connected, I think, through our connection, and I don't want to speak for you, but for me, like the love for the University of Texas, and how that's really shaped my career, and you, and looking back at your time on campus, how did that experience prepare you for your time in business and now today as a investor?
So I would say a couple of things. First and foremost, I did electrical and computer engineering at UT. Within electrical engineering, I did computer engineering. That was a really, really tough curriculum. It was really, really tough. I still remember the first class. I went to a private school in Pakistan, a British school. My average class had like 25 people. And I still remember the first day of class in early September 1990. I was in the chemistry building off of 24th Street. Dr. Davis's class, I'm sure he's no longer at UT. And they had like 800 people in that classroom. Like I'd never been inside a room with 800 people. It was crazy.
Did you move right from Pakistan to UT?
I stayed at La Quinta Inn on the night of August 27th, landed here, was alone. I was just turned 17. Literally, I just turned 17, alone for the first time. But in any case, the first thing UT taught me was just survival of the fittest, right? Like the graduation rate in engineering, especially electrical engineering, was literally like 10% probably. I don't know the exact number. So it's like you've got to work really, really hard. Nobody's going to hold your hands. What a great environment. What a great environment, right? And it was cutthroat. You fall sick, you can't even talk to the TA to say, hey, I'm falling sick. You fall sick, you're on your own. Your grades are going to suffer. So I would say that that's the first thing. The second thing I would say is I was blessed to be a student leader. I was the president of the Student Engineering Council, which was the largest engineering council at the time. I don't think it's no longer the largest. Penn State seems to be the largest in terms of the number of people.
You're tracking the size of student engineering councils?
Yes, because I have, I was
the student leader at heart. This guy's, he's watching it. It's a very influential group. I'm very familiar with
so,
SEC.
Just being involved as a student leader and, dealing with very chaotic curriculum and being a student leader at the same time. And then last thing I would say is I was an international student on an F1 visa, which is very difficult. The only time you could work is the summertime, and the rest of the time I didn't have work permit. But one of the jobs I ended up getting was Friends of Alec. I don't know if they still have Friends of Alec. You did mechanical engineering, correct? No?
No, I was rhetoric and writing.
Oh, okay. So I don't know if
Secret comes out. That's why I'm so good at making
I don't know
look like I did mechanical engineering.
Catherine.
I know a lot of mechanical engineers.
Yes.
Yes, very good friends with them.
There was the last thing I would say is one of the best experiences I had, because I didn't have any opportunities to get a job off campus, was to get a job on campus. And one of the most difficult jobs that I didn't know at the time when I was applying was a Friends of Alec when I was in my sophomore year, which was basically an association or a group for engineering where you call alumni after hours from like 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. and you ask for donation. And I'd never done a cold call. So imagine, like, with my thick Pakistani Desi accent, hello, my name is Aasim. I'm calling you from UT, you know. And I did that for 3 semesters. And by the time I got done with the Friends of Alec job, that was my first experience professionally selling and raising capital. And it was awesome, man.
That must have been a huge learning experience.
Oh my God.
For anyone getting in and doing cold calling, it's hard, but
Yeah.
for someone.
But you'd be surprised. I've done, in my career, I ended up running sales and marketing for Fujitsu. I think that selling with even big companies was in some ways more difficult than being a fundraiser for UT, because if I'm calling from the University of Texas at Austin, your alma mater, from the engineering school, do you have a few minutes to talk? Nobody, like very few people hung up on you. They would talk to you. How's UT doing? How's the football? So it was not that bad, but it was a great experience. But UT was everything, the little bit of success I've had in my professional life, all could be tied to my days at UT.
Yep. There's something very special. When I moved to UT, I didn't know one person at UT from Michigan. I grew up in Michigan, and there's something very unique about going into an environment where you're surrounded around incredibly talented people, and no one really has an impression on who you are, or no expectation of what you're going to go do. And I think that's one of the most valuable things, is where you can really just wake up every day and maybe decide not to go to class, maybe decide to go build a company, or maybe you're going to go stay after class and talk to that professor, or whatever it may be. Well, very, very cool. And then it's funny, you did fundraising, and then I think we met because I was doing some fundraising for the university, and we didn't just call you. We invited you to campus. We put some student entrepreneurs and gave you a little pitch, and you ended up being a first big supporter of Genesis, and that's how we met. What encouraged you to give back? Genesis is a fund where student entrepreneurs fund student investors fund student entrepreneurs on campus, and it simulates a VC process. It's non-dilutive funding, so you just get a grant, and I think several companies through that has come through Capital Factory, Moneta, but yeah, like, why do you think it's important to support student entrepreneurs, and even just for, as an investor, why do you want to get involved in the entrepreneurship scene on campus?
Yeah, no. So a couple of things. First, I will. Obviously, Nick knows this, but you have the roots of whatever little success Moneta has had in Texas could be tied back to both Capital Factory and Nick Spiller. I still remember it was 2017 when we were launching Moneta Ventures here in Texas. I had to fly to Sacramento to present to our LPAC the business case for Moneta Ventures in Texas. And we were a tiny little fund, and Californians, primarily family office folks that were part of our first fund, LPAC. We now have, more family offices and institution or LPACs. I still remember calling Nick, getting introduced, and you spending an unbelievable amount of time in, let me help you with the deck. Let me really help you, right? So I think I still remember being on that flight to Sacramento and reading the Texas Manifesto. I think it was 1.0 version, or
yeah, it must have just came out.
Just came out, and I used that to pitch Moneta Ventures to our LPAC, right? So why did I choose to invest? And by the way, my investment into the Genesis Fund was out of my own pocket, right? I didn't want to. It was not Moneta Ventures investing. It was Aasim investing. There's two reasons. Number one, you asked for it. And second, I already covered this. I'm indebted to UT. right? I'm indebted to, you know, whatever little success I've had in my professional career, personal life, to the University of Texas. And then the last thing I would say is you had one hell of a salesperson pitching the Genesis Fund.
Who's that?
Catherine Allen.
Catherine Allen. And you're now an investor in Catherine's company.
We just did our second round of investment. I still remember we went on campus. I think we Ubered there. And then I went into this dungeony office on the north side of Dean Keaton.
UA9.
Was it UA9?
The building was UA9. I don't think it's standing. It's definitely not up to code.
Yeah, it was a god awful room, like literally. And there's this.
But it was unique because that room was the only room on campus that was fully entrusted to a student organization to build a student entrepreneurship ecosystem. It was our own mini version of Capital Factory back then.
And there was an amazing presenter, a young girl by the name of Catherine Allen, who was studying mechanical engineering in Plan 2, and she made one hell of a pitch. It literally lasted 10 minutes, and I got done. I said yes during the meeting. I didn't even know what I was signing up for. I was signing up for, I'll put in whatever money to close out the fund, because I was the last donor. And then I walked out. We were looking for an Uber. We couldn't find an Uber. So we walked back from campus, back to Capital Factory. And I still remember, you sick and tired of hearing this, and so is Catherine.
No, I'm not. It never gets old.
I told Nick that I don't know what Catherine's going to do next, but if she ends up starting a company, we'll invest. I'll invest.
Yep.
And we did.
Yep.
So
So did we at Capital Factory.
Say it again?
So did we at Capital Factory.
And so did you, yeah. So they're doing phenomenal. Very, very proud of Catherine and team, and we're co-invested with Live Oak, which is another great local fund.
Mm-hmm. Legal recruiting, industry leader in legal recruiting. So if you're in law school, you should go make your Flow Recruit profile. Just released a consumer product or a candidate product recently. Exciting, very exciting stuff, exciting company. At South by Southwest this year, you spoke on a panel. It's called the AI Arms Race. AI is racing very fast, it seems. It's hard for us non-technical people to keep up. You know, like, how are you thinking about AI as a VC, and how do you frame it, especially when you're evaluating companies that are leveraging the technology?
Yeah. No, so first and foremost, I would say that is it as big of a deal as everyone claims to be? So I'll share my little perspective on it, or at least Moneta's perspective on it. If you look at human civilization from the beginning of time, we went through, from the cave days to the great agricultural revolution to the great industrial revolution of the 1800s, primarily what's now United Kingdom, followed by the great computing revolution that started in Silicon Valley. Do we think that we are sort of at the fourth industrial revolution with AI? And I do think that's the case. I do think that artificial intelligence is, a culmination of humanity's progress to date. So it's significantly huge. It is changing humanity, and it will change humanity mostly for the better. So that's number one. Number two, I would also say that if you look at the impact, the monetary aspect of artificial intelligence in terms of, for investors, what does that mean? We have about a $16 trillion services industry across the globe annually, $16 trillion. $2.6 trillion here in Americas for primarily white-collar jobs, some blue-collar jobs, $2.6 trillion annual spend in services. All of it is all of it is going to be impacted by that. every bit of it. So at the moment, it's probably at 3 or 4 or 5%. But could you just imagine that in our lifetimes, we'll have more robots? You all know this better than Moneta does. We'll have more robots. The number of people, the analysts, the jobs that are being created and being lost as a result of efficiency gain. So it's absolutely huge. Specifically within our Moneta thesis, we look at the AI space into primarily 4 buckets: functions, features, applications, platforms, and infrastructure. And our thesis is to primarily look for the middle 2, which are applications and platforms. And we have invested, most of our investments, I would say, over 70% fall in one of those 2 buckets, primarily application. And some platform plays, some of which, or one of which, is a co-investment, the world's another great Capital Factory, Moneta Ventures company, which is another AI platform play. But I think that that's what really excites us. In summary, I think AI is, the talk that I had at South by Southwest was basically getting allocators' perspective, not just venture capitalists, but people that fund us, right? There's $1 trillion of institutional money here in Texas, and I wanted to just get their perspective, because at the end of the day, 80% of the money that we invest come from the allocators. And for those of you that have seen that, I think there was alignment with the allocators as well. I think everyone gets it, that this is the new frontier.
Yeah, yeah. How do you define a platform in AI?
Yeah, so I think the easiest way to look at a platform would be an application, whether it's horizontal, like HR, supply chain, MRP, whatever it may be, or it's vertical for a specific industry, automotive, healthcare, whatever. It's solving a set of use cases. So that's an application. A platform would be a set of technologies that are harmoniously put together that could create a plethora of applications, not just for a specific use case. So in Roll's case, as an example, which is, again, a joint portfolio companies, they do defense, and they do supply chain, and they do trucking, and the list goes on. They're providing a platform, and then they let companies, take the art of the possible and solve amazing use cases. The challenge with platforms are you need a significant amount of investment. It's a different play. But if you have the right team and the right funding, those could be amazing investments, and the returns are off the charts.
Yep. Well, good thing you got the bigger fund now.
True. Exactly.
Well, you mentioned we've worked together in a lot of companies, Flow Recruit, World, App Orchid being another one. I think you understand. You were the investor of the year at Capital Factory. I should have put that in the intro. Moneta was, much due to your work. But what advice do you have for founders looking to be part of Capital Factory and get value out of this place?
Yeah, no, so not saying this just because I'm here at Capital Factory, but absolutely truly mean that. I think that first and foremost, Capital Factory is the tremendous gift to the state of Texas, now also in Washington, D.C.
That's right. Texas is going national.
Yeah, we're going national. So I think that, could you just imagine, so obviously it's very difficult to replicate or beat what Silicon Valley has, right? It's just, the scale is so tremendous that it's difficult to beat that. But could you just imagine, like, all you need is a scooter. Like, literally, you could be right here. You could be at UT. You could scooter your way to Capital Factory. You could meet a bunch of angel investors and mentors and be able to ideate, come up with the concept, get all kinds of help, legal help, financial help, whatever it may be. The company can incubate it. You could do a pre-seed round. You have Capital Factory that could potentially write a check, and then literally don't even have to go anywhere, maybe the 5th floor, a different floor, and get access to dozens and dozens of amazing investors that could do your institutional round and bigger rounds, bigger checks, and all of that. And then you don't even need a scooter. You can pretty much walk to 20, 30 private equity firms that are all within walking distance, or maybe a scooter ride away, like literally, right? When we started Moneta Ventures here in Texas, we were maybe the sixth, seventh early stage fund. There are now 100 funds that operate here in Texas.
Wow.
There was only Vista Equity Partners, and maybe a couple of other funds. There's literally like 20, 30 private equity funds, hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars of investments. And the common thread among all of this is Capital Factory. There are other great incubators in town as well. We work with all of them, but this is absolutely a very special place. One little thing I will tell you, when Moneta, as part of our third fund, was opening an office, we used Aquila as our
Yep.
as our real estate
Aquila Commercial.
Aquila Commercial, Chris Perry, and I've used Chris for every, we used Chris for Rapidyme and for Fujitsu and
Yep.
for Sparta and KPIT, and now with Moneta as well. One of the requirements I gave them was, I want to be walking distance from Capital Factory. And our office is
Good requirement.
literally in the Littlefield building. It will take you less than 4 minutes to get there.
Love it. Love having you nearby too. And then I guess how I would translate that for the founders is it's not hard to get value out of Capital Factory. You gotta show up. You can't. You may just have to scooter or walk over, but come here, be part of it, meet people. That's what you're doing here tonight. Listen to the podcast if you can't come in person all the time. So very cool. I'm gonna ask maybe one more question, then open it up to the audience. So hopefully y'all have some questions for Aasim as well. But I want to kind of just open the conversation. We talked kind of a lot about UT and Austin, but want to look at Texas as a whole. And, I think we've touched on it. And as Texas, I think a lot of people that have listened to the podcast have read the Texas Startup Manifesto. If you haven't, you can go to texasstartupmanifesto.com. Also, the follow-up to that is the texasrisingtide.com. Why is Texas such an exciting place to raise money and build a company, in your opinion, your words?
Yeah. I will tell you that, actually, let me back up for a second. I'll tell you a story from 2002. So I still remember, I came here in 1990. 2002, I was visiting Pakistan, and my late mom, she was knocking on the door because I was taking a shower and I was late for my flight back to Austin. And I still remember my mom in Urdu saying, son, you're going to be late again, because I'm always late. And while I'm taking a shower, I remember telling her, yeah, I got to get home in Urdu. And I come out of the shower, and my mom is still in my room. And she's like, what did you say? What did you say? You're going home? I was like, yeah, I got to go to Austin. And she says, this is home. And I just looked at her, and I'll never forget this. I looked at my mom, and I loved my mom, and I was like, nope. No, Mom. My home is Austin, right? So I think that for me, in my mind, when people say, I got naturalized as a US citizen in 2006, but in my heart, I became a Texan in my heart. By the way, I have my Lucchese's on.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Picture those for the show.
I actually asked Haley if I should wear a cowboy hat, and she's like, nope, just wear your boots. So I love my country, United States. It's imperfect, but there's no perfect union out there. And I love the great state of Texas. It's independent. I think that the mixture of being overly Republican in terms of policy, and then you're in this amazing island of Austin, where socially you're fairly left-leaning. I think that mixture, the business-friendly environment, no taxes, Like, there's no place in the world, right? Eighth largest economy. I can just go on and on. There is no place in the world like Texas. And that's why, look at, look at all the people that have moved here. Although I will tell you, it's been going on since I've been here. It's like, oh, Austin's become really big. And every few years, Austin's just huge. It's blowing up. Something is different. And since the COVID days, something is different. We're in a different planetary system. So I'm extremely bullish. I think the regulations, the HB 104, my understanding it's about to get passed or just got passed. The state of Texas is now going to invest in innovation. So many amazing things happening. So I'm very bullish. I still think that'll be difficult to surpass if you're, a startup with what's happening in Silicon Valley. It's a great place. We invest there as well. But this is a really, really special place.
Yep. I don't think there's any reason for us to want to pass California or want California to be less. And, rising tide lifts all boats, and it feels like we're doing better and better here in Texas. So, all right, who has a question for Aasim? All right, looks like Jonathan is ready to roll. Aaron has the mic. Feel free to introduce yourself and ask a question.
Hey, Aasim, I'm Jonathan. I'm one of the venture associates here at Capital Factory. I'm going to try to brainwash you into why Houston is actually the place to be, but I'll wait for that.
He's our venture associate in Houston.
Yeah.
Everyone knows it.
Yeah. But the question goes back to AI, and this is a weird question, but Mark Andreessen got a lot of flack on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, for saying that VCs can't be replaced by AI. There's a touch of taste. I disagree. I think we probably can be replaced. So when do you think the first AI VC is going to emerge, and would you invest in that company or that fund?
Actually, that's a great question. Tell me your name again. My apologies. Jonathan. Sorry. So Jonathan, I think that's a great question, and it's a topic that's near and dear to me, right? So I think that I think it's a fallacy to think that AI is not going to impact something, right? Like a lot of my peers think that just because we have access to capital, we could just keep doing what we are doing and we'll be just fine. And I completely disagree with that. So if you believe that AI is going to impact the venture industry or an AI-powered VC, when do we see that? I think it's absolutely the case. So I believe that the future best venture capitalists that have the best IRRs, the best, TVPIs, that have oversubscribed fundraisers, fund after fund after fund, will be ones that have three characteristics. Number one, they have phenomenal individuals that work hard, that are intelligent, that have good backgrounds, they're ethical, professional human beings, number one. So that has been the case, will continue to be the case. Number two, that those individuals are connected to an amazing network, human network. That matters. It is very, very important. There are different mafias, the Elon mafia and the Thiel, huge overlap between those. We have a little bit of a mafia, the Moneta mafia. Same with other funds that.
Moneta Mafia.
Yeah, Capital Factory mafia.
Moneta Mafia has a nice ring to it.
And then I
Capital
think
Factory Mafia is a mouthful.
And then the third, which is what your question was, is your platform, right? What is your platform? So imagine a world in which Nick asked me a question. What is the common underlying theme that makes a successful entrepreneur? I'm sure that some of you may have tried this. Try to go ask ChatGPT that, or Gemini, or whatever it may be, and you'll get different answers. But I would say that it has very little meaning right now. But imagine an environment in which I could upload every deal doc. I could upload all the financial performance, all the deal docs coming from wherever. In our case, they're all stored in Omni. All the financial statements for our companies, all the deal flow, all the pitch decks, everything else, the profile of the individuals, everything is available. And for us to be able to create a collective by which we could ask, inquire, be inquisitive about different ideas, different disciplines, different founders, do we think that that is going to matter? I absolutely think it matters today. It matters today. Forget about 5 years from now. It matters today. So I do believe that the venture capitalists of the future will be the ones that adopt this, that have, there are a bunch of different softwares that are out there. I'll tell you that we are very interested in this. We use a plethora of systems today that are used by most venture capitalists. For us to bring all of that together is something that we believe in, that it's actually one of my pet projects.
Can tie it all together with the brain-computer interface. BCI, AI-enabled VC. How many more buzzwords could you get?
By the way, if somebody is working on what I just mentioned, I'd love to talk to you.
Luis.
All right, on to the next question. I'm bullish on Texas. I know you're bullish on Texas. Love the state. And as you're raising a new fund, it's amazing the kind of scale of both institutional and family office wealth that's in Texas that's not investing in Texas. And so could you please address what can we be doing to have more investors, especially those dollars that are in the state, to come back and invest in the state?
Like, that's almost like these are setup questions, and I promise you that these are not setup questions. They are happening organically. So there were literally 2 talks at South by Southwest that this year that Moneta did. The first one was the one that Nick and I talked about, about AI. The second one was actually the subject that I was most passionate to talk about. And then we found out that you can't have, in a single year, 2 moderators, one moderator moderating more than 1 panel. So I had to outsource that to my partner, Brent. So we actually did a panel called Made in Texas, but was it funded by Texas? And it's actually, if you go to Moneta Ventures LinkedIn page and scroll down through our activity, you'll see we have the full recording online on LinkedIn. And it was Brent and George P. Bush, a great conversation, and we shared a decent amount of data. So I'll summarize that for you. There's $1 trillion of public endowments, retirement, institutional money that exists in Texas, about $1 trillion. Typically, most institutions invest, between 10 to 15% in the venture asset class. I believe the number for Texas, is 11%. Carter, who created that deck, is sitting there, so maybe after this session he'll correct me, but it's about 11%, give or take. And if you look at how much of that early stage venture money is actually invested by those Texas institutions in Texas funds, it's less than 1%. It's less than 1%. So it's a subject that's near and dear to me. I learned that because I led the efforts for Moneta for our institutional fundraise. Lokesh was obviously our did most of that, but I was heading that institutionally for Moneta Ventures. And I will tell you, we had luck in Michigan, we had significant luck in California and all of that, but with pure institutions outside of banks, and there were many banks that invested in us, they literally was like, they don't invest here in Texas. They make investments, until the regulations pass. They invested plenty in China and India and other, geographies, California, New York, other places, but not here in Texas. So what have we done about it? We have done our part to vocalize that. We are not fundraising. We are hopefully not going to fundraise. If we fundraise, Hopefully it'll be done by our existing investors and so on and so forth. So this is not a self-serving thing. But for the betterment of the state of Texas, I think Texas needs to do better. And as a result, we have worked. One of my great partners is Rajiv Pala from Clutch Ventures. He went and presented in front of our Texas State Capitol for a regulation called HB 104, which is to take the surplus of our state budget and to reinvest in the state of Texas on entrepreneurship and innovation. I don't know the exact. It was supposed to be a $6 billion fund, got reduced to, I believe, $500 million, which is a great start, but still doesn't address UTEMCO and TRS and TMRS and others to do more. They should do more.
I think it's been announced. If not, I know there's been rumors of a Texas sovereign wealth fund that would have a specific focus around investing in Texas and a lot of this too. But
I think that we should read up more on HB 104. So HB 104, that's a good start.
who else?
Before I ask a question, I want to highlight the kind of commonalities that we have. I'm from Pakistan originally, bachelor's in electrical engineering.
No way.
Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Master's in computer science, and then, UT Macomb's MBA. So we have that. And I'm usually late as well, so. But so I'm currently working at Microsoft. I'm in AI delivery. We working on building AI agents for enterprises. And I'm also working on my own product on the side, which doesn't conflict with my work. We're building latest and greatest AI agents to simplify investing, stock market and everything for retail and institutional investors as well. And I would love to talk about that after this, probably. But
would love that.
Yeah. My question is that if you would be going back, what you know now in the venture world and how the world is going, especially, it's I totally align with your vision of where AI is and AI is going to go. Know what you know now and going back, coming to my place, and young people, you're young as well, but young people who they're working and doing, where should they focus and how should they allocate their time and focus right now in 2025?
For young entrepreneurs, a couple of things. So in terms of ideas, I would say that be original, right? Ideation is not a science, it's an art. So I think that the ideation piece, in my opinion, hasn't changed. That has remained the same, literally from hundreds and hundreds since the beginning of time. So that is fundamental. I would say that with regards to what you were talking about, artificial intelligence, I will tell you that there's a plethora of functions and features that exist today. Most investors, most of my peers are looking for things that are unique to a business idea. And what that means is, what domain expertise do you have, whether it's vertical, whether it's horizontal, what unique data sets you have. Those are fundamental things that are required I would say that 90% of the startups that we look at are functions and features play versus true applications. And somebody asked a question, you asked a question, the difference between an application and a platform. The difference between a function and feature play, which for the most part is not fundable or institutionally fundable, versus an application, is one in which you have a unique set of industry know-how that's unique to you and data sets that are unique to you that are not publicly available. So, does that make sense?
I think you just focus on something. So easy to get lost in the sauce and you kind of just try to follow every little thing that happens in AI. just lean in, try to embrace it, find people that are embracing it, and probably the worst thing you can do is just not learn it or kind of like deny it at all. You don't want to miss the future entirely. All right, time for maybe one or two more questions. Yep, back here.
So this goes back to your point about the AI arms race and how it more or less echoes the Industrial Revolution. Just a quick tweet. So back in April, I'm going to bring it up so I read it directly.
Just bringing a source. I like this.
Sam Altman tweeted, "I think this is going to be more like the Renaissance than the Industrial Revolution." The first question, do you agree? And then the follow-up question there being, if yes, you accept that premise, how do you see its potential impact on a modern economy?
Wow, these are tough questions.
Sam Altman's first mention on the podcast, I think.
Yeah. What would Sam know? No, I'm just kidding. No, so do
The
I?
Renaissance or the Industrial Revolution? It is really interesting.
It is. Yeah. Listen, I think that I stand behind, my comment that it is a cataclysmic shift in humanity. Whether it's Industrial Revolution or the Renaissance, you pick, right? I think that the bigger point is, it is a point in, this is not, hey, we were on client server and mainframe, and from mainframe we went to client server and then to cloud, and now we have AI. It's absolutely not that. It is a generational change that is happening. I think that the only difference is that the adoption is, agricultural revolution from one part of the globe to the other part of the globe took a couple of centuries. Industrial revolution took many decades. Computing revolution took maybe a little bit less. In this case, I think there are people, any part of the world, there's internet access that have access to artificial intelligence. So the adoption is just going to be tremendous. So that's my take. What do you think?
I think it's going to be like if the Renaissance and the Industrial Revolution had a baby. Be my best guess. I wish I was around for either one of those. So just hearsay. Any more questions? Any more? One more? You got a question over here, front row?
Go ahead.
No? All right, a couple more questions.
So in your operations of your venture, you're investing in some of these organizations that are creating new platforms for AI and moving forward. What type of challenges have you come across, and how have you overcome those?
What kind of shitstorms have you been in? Awesome.
I know. No, so I think that a lot of those are the same from the beginning of, entrepreneurship. Do you have the right team? Making sure that the team is structured correctly, that you have the right financing model in place, that you're surrounded by the right advisors, that your go-to-market is put together and all of that. I would say that that's common. That hasn't changed. It's still the basics. I think as it relates to what we've spent probably half of this podcast as it relates to artificial intelligence, I would say that one of the things that we try to tell our founders is, because of the fast-moving pace of technology, and in a lot of ways you're trying to hit a moving target, right? So if you're going to put in significant amount of resources in building an application that works on, say, ChatGPT 3.5, I'm making this up, and you're going to put significant amount of effort in bridging the functionality gap, the data gap, making sure that you have, game plans for hallucinations and everything else, that's probably not the right way of going about it, because 5.0 is around the corner. It is going to evolve. It's going to be a different ball game. So how do you build a technology application or even a platform that could keep up with the pace of the change that's coming down? It's not an easy thing, right? I will go back to the previous question that the gentleman had asked, my countryman had asked. I think that if you have a set of data, set of unique process knowledge, functionality that's unique, it's proprietary, you have access, you have a network with a specific vertical or horizontal or industry group or whatever it may be, and you have a set of data that's unique to you, regardless of the change in technology, that's yours. It's not going anywhere, right? It's yours. So I think that those would be the things.
Thank you. My name is Bosco. We chatted earlier. Awesome. So we talk about various revolutions, right? Like AI revolution coming in. Some would argue that after that, robotics, right? Space, the area that I'm in. I always think about all these things happening. Which are some of the areas that you think that, hey, I wish more founders or more people are looking at it? Areas that are underbuilt or even underinvest, right? For me, I have a young kid too, or 2 young kids. Education is one thing that people are not talking about it. People are talking about all these AI tools coming in. So are there any areas that you think that, hey, we wish more people are looking at it from a founder's point of view, ideas point of view, and investor point of view?
Neural networks. No, I'm just kidding. Listen, I think, there are, I think that there are amazing investors out there that are looking for the next moonshot, including Moonshot Ventures, that are looking for creative, disruptive ideas, fusion, and the list goes outer space, humanity in Mars, so on and so forth, right? I think that the reality is Moneta Ventures, we're in many ways a boring traditional investor. We invest in software, right? So when it comes to software, right? When it comes to software, what excites us are the things that we have talked about. Leveraging the latest and greatest artificial intelligence to solve unique test cases that are not being solved by others. And you'll be shocked how much opportunity exists today. Every company, like if you look at, say, a Fortune 1000 companies across the globe, Fortune 1000 organization, 90% of them run SAP, they run Oracle, they have Salesforce, 90, maybe 95%, and maybe a couple of other, ISVs that are out there. I can assure you that for the next decade, they're not changing much. They're not innovating. And it is the wild, wild west. Can you take a segment of that and create a billion-dollar enterprise? Can you take a segment of that and displace an incumbent? And if I were to bet, anytime there is a big revolution that takes place, who wins, incumbents or the challengers? If I were to bet, I would bet on a challenger.
On that note, join me in thanking Aasim for coming on the Austinpreneur podcast.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Fun. Thank you all for coming out. Thanks for listening to this episode of Austinpreneur. Don't forget to check out capitalfactory.com to learn more about us and join our community. If you have thoughts about the show or ideas on how we can work together, reach out to me directly via email, nickspiller@capitalfactory.com. Shout out to the Capital Factory Dream Team for making this podcast possible, and special thanks to Aaron Handworker, who masterfully recorded and edited the show. Come back next week for a whole new episode.